making less than $15 and getting their tips stolen from them. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to hand it off to Ryan, who will go ahead and give directions on what's going to happen going forward. We will go over a couple of chants that we are going to use. These are our streets, so we are going to take them. Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
So we will be taking the street in a little bit. So I'm going to hand it off to Ryan, and then I'll go over the chants. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right, how's everybody doing today? I said, how's everybody doing today? My name's Ryan. I'm a former tipped worker at Clyde's Restaurant Group. At these kinds of restaurants, they say they're some of the best to work for in the city. But that doesn't mean you don't deal with racial discrimination. That doesn't mean that you don't have to put up with sexual harassment, especially if you're a woman. And the restaurant doesn't help you with those things. You get harassed, you get discriminated against by your customers, and they tip you nothing. You think the managers are going to go and try to convince them to give you money? No. They do nothing for their workers. No health care. No child care. None of the benefits that the average job should provide to their employees. And so today we're going to be marching from this location, Old Ebbitt Grill, to their Chinatown location, Clyde's, to let this restaurant group know that they need to be on the right side of history when it comes to paying their workers a living wage.
Yes, yes.
And not to mention, about 5 years ago, we had an initiative on the ballot, Initiative 77. It called for eliminating the sub-minimum wage and paying all workers in DC $15 an hour plus tips on top. And it passed. It passed by, I think, 60 to 40% or higher. And then Clyde's over here, a member of the National Restaurant Association, the other NRA, they lobbied the DC City Council to go against the will of the people and to not enact the legislation that the people had voted to support and that voted to become law. We got a new city council now. I think we should maybe try to do it again.
Yeah. You all right now? Love it. Okay. All right. So we are about to take the street and advocate, like I said, on behalf of everyone who cannot be here, on behalf of ourselves and our personal experiences, on behalf of this national fight. So I will go over a couple chants that we're going to have so that we're all on one accord. I am a talker. I just want that to be known now. So I will continuously be on the bullhorn. I'm a frontliner by heart and an organizer by spirit. So, with that being said, of course, we like our old fashioned. When I say one fair, y'all say wage. One fair.
Wage.
One fair.
Wage.
When I say one fair, y'all say wage. One fair.
Wage.
One fair.
Wage.
When I say people, y'all say power. People.
Power.
People.
Power.
When I say people, y'all say power. People.
Power.
People.
Power.
Now we'll say, hey, hey, ho, ho. Poverty wages got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Poverty wages got to go. Hey, hey, go ahead and direct you guys and lead y'all to Collide. Y'all keep up the energy. We tried to make sure it wasn't a long route, but we have to make sure that we are making a statement, okay? This is the whole purpose of it. We have to demand this. This is not something we're asking politely. We tried to do that. It didn't work. So now we are demanding this. That's why we're taking the street. They're forcing our hand. So now we are at our last resort of taking these streets and striking. So you have to keep the energy up, okay? Let's do this, y'all. Give it up for yourselves.
All right. Take up space, guys. Don't walk shoulder to shoulder. Make sure we take up space.
All right, let's follow Ryan.
Shut it It's not a labor shortage, it's a wage shortage. It's not a labor shortage, it's a wage shortage. It's not a labor shortage, it's a wage shortage. We're marching for $15 an hour for tipped workers with tips on top.
On a federal level.
Federally. That's what we deserve. Y'all complaining about us not going back to work to wait on your tables, it's because you're not willing to pay us what we deserve. And we realized that this past year.
If we are essential workers, pay us an essential wage. Make it make sense. There should not be people having $2.13 an hour as their paycheck and having their tips stolen away from them and then expect for them to live off of that. Enough is enough.
Restaurants already make you, the customer, pay 90% of their tipped workers' wages in the form of tips. Right now, the other 10%, all PPP grants. They cost them nothing to employ people, and yet they still say that they can't afford to pay people a living wage. You know what $2.13 makes out to be after a full year of work, 52 weeks, 40 hours a week? Less than 10 grand.
A year.
A year.
Imagine living off of 10 grand a year. Individuals having kids, having to pay for a roof over their heads, pay for food in their stomachs, clothes on their backs. Realistically, logically, it doesn't make sense. So before you eat at an establishment, do your research. The people that are serving you, how much are they being paid? Because at all that grill, they're getting paid $5 an hour.
Ask your server if they're paid $5 an hour or $15 an hour. Ask your server if their boss is paying them a living wage or just covering their taxes.
And ask them if they're actually receiving their tips or if their employees are stealing it from them. Tips that they earn. Tips that they earn and they deserve. We have to take accountability for ourselves. This is not just a fight in D.C. This is not just a fight in California. This is not just a fight in New York. This is a fight nationwide. So if you are not in the fight, you are against the fight by default. Have that realization now before it's too late. When I say one fair, y'all say wage. One fair.
Wage.
One fair.
Wage.
When y'all say one fair, y'all say wage. One fair.
Wage.
One fair.
Wage.
When I say people, y'all say power. People.
Power.
People.
Power.
When I say people, y'all say power. People.
Power.
People.
Power.
When I say 15, y'all say an hour. 15.
An hour.
15.
An hour.
When I say 15, y'all say an hour. 15.
An hour.
15.
An hour.
What do we want?
One fair wage.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
One fair wage.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it,
Shut it down.
if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
I said if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
I said if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
I said if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
what do we want?
One fair wage.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
One fair wage.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it, if we don't get it, if we don't get it,
Shut it
I
down.
said if we don't get it. We talking about you, Clyde.
Made it, guys.
We talking about you, Clyde. Shut it
That's
down.
right, Clydes.
Shut it all the way down. All the way.
So we're at Clyde's Chinatown. Yeah, everybody spread out across the whole street.
So
Make sure we got everything out here.
It's taking street to street, both sides. These are our streets. If they're not going to listen to us, we are going to shut down this street. This was not our first resort. This was not our second resort. This was our last resort. So we're going to take up this space until they hear what we have to say. And we have a demand of $15 plus tips on top.
That's right. My name is Ryan. I'm a former tip worker. I've worked in the service industry for over 10 years as a restaurant server, most recently at the Hamilton, one of Clyde's restaurants. And you know, there's been a lot of talk in the media lately about a labor shortage, that people can't find people to wait tables, to bus tables, to sling drinks. But we know that in reality, this is a wage shortage, not a worker shortage.
Right.
Today, we are going on strike in cities all over the country to assert that in order to rebuild our economy, we need to pay workers $15 an hour minimum wage with tips on top.
Yes.
And we're here to tell Clyde's, and to tell all the restaurants in the area who keep bitching and moaning that they can't find people to do their work for them, that they pay poverty wages, that we're not going to be going back to work until you give us one fair wage. There's a bill currently moving through Congress as part of the Wage the Raise Act, which would raise wages to $15 an hour across the country and eliminate the lower sub-minimum wage for tipped workers, which has been at $2.13 since 1974. People think prices will go up. You don't think the cost of your meal's gone up since 1974 already? They've been pocketing the profits that they make, raising prices, and giving nothing back to their workers, and instead make you, the customer, subsidize their entire livable wage. You guys think that's right? No. The sub-minimum wage was always unjust, but the pandemic made our bad situation worse. Tips went down, health risks and harassment went up, and that got me more engaged in organizing with One Fair Wage. We've been organizing strikes last summer and striking again starting today, making clear we wouldn't go back to work without one fair wage. It just doesn't make sense to go back for higher risks, hostility, and so much less tips. And I'm not alone. I've seen more and more restaurant workers organizing. The fact is, we don't have a worker shortage in restaurants right now. We do have a wage shortage. And workers aren't going to put up with this injustice any longer. For every worker here, every worker on strike, there are hundreds more who weren't able to come out for whatever reason that may be. Whether it's because they're stuck working for poverty wages, whether it's the fact that they're too afraid to go out, they don't have money for transportation. But if you got paid $15 an hour with your tips on top of that, you would be able to have a livable, comfortable life. And if anyone tries to tell me that that's too much, that workers don't deserve that, and I don't know how much you make and how much you consider to be a comfortable wage, because I guarantee you it's less than that, and they're being paid a fraction of it right now. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my organizer over here at Naya Vines. Yeah, Naya!
How y'all doing today? How are you guys doing today? Now I'm speaking on the people that were marching with us from Old Ebbets Grill, but also to the individuals who are just seeing what we're doing and just catching on. So my name is Anaya Vines. I'm a DC organizer with One Fair Wage. If you guys do not know about us, you can follow us on social media as well at ofw.dc. But what we are here for is to combat against the $2.13 sub-minimum on a federal level. Imagine having to survive on $2.13 trying to feed your children, trying to keep a roof over your head, trying to make ends meet when you're making about $10K a year annually, not including taxes being excluded. And we are doing that nationally. This is not just a fight in D.C. This is not just a fight state to state. This is a fight that we all have to be combating. And while we are out here, and you see this group of people, we are representing hundreds of thousands of people that are not able to come out here. It is a privilege to protest, because not everyone has that luxury to do so. There are people in Clyde right now, people inside the old Ebbets Grill that we just came from, that we're not able to come out because they have to work. They have to put up with discrimination. They have to put up with sexual harassment. There is so much that workers have to put up with on a regular basis just to survive. That is not fair. Wage justice is racial justice, because statistically, black and brown individuals are getting tipped less than their white counterparts. Let's talk about it. So with that being said, when you see us, if you are not joining us or supporting us, you are against us by default. If you feel like this is going to affect how much you have in your income, do research. Because once we all succeed thoroughly. Once it goes up to $15 plus tips on top, it works for the greater good for everyone. So think about everyone, not just you, not just what's coming into your pockets, but to those who have to feed 5 kids, making sure that they get through the winter on $2.13. Old Ebbets Grill, basically a 10-minute walk from here, they get an annual income of $32 million, but their workers get paid $5 an hour. Make it make sense, because it doesn't. So with that being said, we're outside of Clyde because they have the same morals. They have the same ethical values. So those that are working in Clyde, we are fighting for you. And those that are eating in Clyde, rethink what you're doing right now. Because you are basically enabling what this establishment is doing. Ask your workers how much they are making an hour. Ask them if they're receiving their tips. Because a lot of establishments, their employers are stealing their tips. Tips that they earn. Tips that are theirs. But they do not see. So rethink what you're doing. Make this your last meal at Clyde. And if you are a regular here, I suggest that you abort mission immediately. And if you like Old Ebbets Grill, I suggest you abort mission immediately. And next time you go to an establishment, do your research on how much those workers are getting paid and how they're being treated.
Ask your server. That's right.
So those who are seeing this, those who just kind of stumbled onto this strike, this is something that has been strategically planned. This is planned because this is revolutionary. The sub-minimum wage has not moved for 40 years. 40 years! I know the standard of living has moved tremendously over 40 years, but the sub-minimum hasn't. And I think in July it's going up to what, $5.05? Going up, okay, $5.05. Does that still seem like enough?
No.
Does that still seem like enough?
No.
Imagine having that in your paycheck consistently and not getting your tips. And the thing is, we are fighting for $15 plus tips on top, but we deserve more. Tip workers deserve more. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it back to Ryan to continue on. Thank you so much. I know I'm a talker, but we need talkers to continue on the fight. So thank you.
So, I call a lot of people about this. I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people tell me, well, I think that's enough. Waiters seem good. I used to be a waiter. I was able to make rent, usually, most of the time. But let me tell you something. When study after study shows that women and people of color make less in tips annually than their white male counterparts like me, that is nothing short of pay discrimination. That is illegal. But yet we allow it in America for people who make tips. We let the customer decide whether or not so-and-so deserves to get the full 20%. Or maybe they only tip 10%. Or maybe they don't tip at all. Maybe you walk into a shift, sit around for 2 hours, don't get any tables, get cut, but before you can leave, you gotta do side work. You gotta fold napkins, you gotta polish glassware, and you leave maybe $5 that day. And that's all going to taxes. If anyone here's ever been a server, and I know a lot of you have, you know that most of the time you never get a paycheck. You get a little receipt that tells you that all of your wages went to taxes. Oh, but guess what? You're gonna owe a little bit more when you file, because it's not even gonna cover everything that you owe. Even the waiters and bartenders I make, who make high salaries, by the end of the year, they never know how much they're taking home that week. They never know how many shifts they're gonna get put on for that week. And so they still live paycheck to paycheck, because they never know what their weekly pay is gonna be. They have to deal with it as it comes. They have to roll with the punches like no other industry professional has to. And people also like to tell me, oh, well, it's an unskilled job. It's for people who, it's their first job. Let me tell you, no restaurant hires waiters without experience. No restaurant takes the time to train people who have never waited tables before. So they expect you to have experience. And at most restaurants, I'm sure, they don't look 16, they're able to serve you alcohol. So it's not their first job. And if you've ever worked in a restaurant, you know the average person can't do that. That takes skill. That takes skills that you can't learn. Having to deal with rude customers, having to think on the fly, having to time out 5 different tables, meals, and appetizers so you enter them in at the right time so they get their entree when they're supposed to. That's skilled labor. That deserves a minimum. Minimum wage in DC, which is $15 an hour. $15 an hour is the minimum that we should be asking for. And I get a lot of other people who tell me, well, I make $18 an hour and I had to fight hard to get $18 an hour doing whatever the hell job you do. And to that I say, how do you understand that if you get paid $15 right now and the minimum wage goes up to $15, you have a right to demand a pay raise as well? And if you think that you do more work than someone like a server does for that amount of money, then why wouldn't it incentivize you to go do an easier job? And to not do the hard job you have to do for what you consider to be so little pay. And if anyone else would like to speak on this, by all means, come up and talk to us. We'd love to have you up here.
How you doing? My name is Adam Eidinger. I'm a longtime DC resident, lived here most of my life. I've worked in 2 restaurants, and I worked about 4 years of my life in these restaurants. And I just want to say, of all the jobs I've ever had, it was the most dangerous work environment I could have ever imagined. And now with COVID, it's got to be much more dangerous. I worked in these restaurants and I was taken advantage of. I was a busboy. I was tipped out every night by the waiters and waitresses. That's how we made our money. And if you weren't popular with the waiter and waitresses, you didn't get paid. One time, on a very busy Saturday night, there were some dirty tables upstairs, and one of the busboys, just one out of 12 busboys, this was a large restaurant, one of the busboys was having his break. After being there since lunch break, he's been there since 11:30 a.m. It was about 6 o'clock, and he had not eaten anything since he arrived. He went downstairs, and he ate some rigatoni. This was an Italian restaurant. About $1 worth of rigatoni. The owner came downstairs, saw him eating his rigatoni, flipped out on him, told him to go back to work upstairs right now or you're going to lose your job. And from now on, since busboys are not full-time workers, they no longer get their 4-hour break. Federally mandatory break. So what did we do? The busboys had a meeting where we got word that our breaks were now canceled and nobody should be taking a break downstairs ever again. I'd worked in this restaurant for a year and a half, and I was actually the top busboy at that time. I was the ace. I worked with all the busboys. I was kind of like middle management for the busboys. And I went to my manager and I said, you can't let the owner do this. This is against federal law. You're entitled to a break. She said, sorry, that's the way it's going to be from now on. So the following Friday, we walked out. We walked out of our jobs. 11 of the 12 busboys walked out right during the transition between early birds and the full-paying dinner clients. And there were dirty tables all over this restaurant. And you know what happened? Because we walked out and we refused to work in these ridiculous working conditions, we got our breaks back on the spot. The policy was changed. Get back to work. But a week later, the owner called us in one by one, knowing about half of us were still in high school, and said, "Can you work full-time?" I said, "Yeah, I'm in high school." You're fired. And we're all fired. That's how people are treated in the restaurant industry. Well, the next job I had, in the next restaurant, the workers were treated a little bit better. You got to keep your breaks. There was no issue with breaks. But that restaurant was a major cocaine operation. And here I am, a freshman in college, and they all this insanity. Now, I believe in the legalization of drugs, but that's my personal view. So I don't want you to get the wrong idea here. But these work environments are not safe. They're not safe for young women. The sexual harassment is out of control. For right now, it might seem like a fair system, but I know for a fact, after 4 years of working in the restaurant industry, that people who vote right, they're making less on tips and making less just on their base wage if they worked in the kitchen or somewhere else. And the white workers are paid more. These little fiefdoms, as I like to call them, these restaurants are little fiefdoms. And they need to be under strict regulation. Workers are taken advantage of. They're held hostage by their employers when they're trying to advocate for themselves. And so, those of us who are former restaurant workers who refuse to return to work for low wages, who stand with those who are held hostage by the tips, who are held hostage by an unfair work environment. We're here for you. We stand with you. There are millions of Americans who can agree with what I just said, who have the same experience. It is not an uncommon experience to find a very unsafe workplace where workers don't have the basics provided in their salary, where the tips are everything. We want $15 an hour plus tips. That's what we want. That's what we're asking for. There are high-road restaurants in the United States right now that are paying $15 an hour plus tips, like Men at Work. And if these restaurants that today are complaining they can't find workers, simply said from now on it's 15, and if you get tipped, you get to keep your tips. Then we have people lining up out the door for those jobs. But that's not what people hear now. The Washington Post just yesterday had a full-page article about people who worked in the corporate restaurant industry. I'm talking about the Olive Gardens and the Red Lobsters, okay, of the world, the chains, the thousand restaurant chains. That's where some of the worst abuses are taking place. And now with COVID, the CDC says that a restaurant is one of the most dangerous places you can go to work or just be. And, you know, hopefully the pandemic is truly ending and we can get back to a semblance of normal. But if people really think that restaurant workers were essential workers at the beginning of the pandemic, you heard that over and over again, then why shouldn't they get the same minimum wage that any other worker gets? There's just no excuse to have a sub-minimum wage. And when the restaurants say you can't afford it, there should be absolutely no change in the cost of food for the customer. Because, you know, when you look at that menu today, you're looking at the price without the tip. So it's a sneaky way of making the prices look lower. It's a con job by the restaurant industry to trick the customer into buying something. And then, when that customer has overspent, they outsource their labor on you, the customer. And if you don't have the money, the worker doesn't get paid. What kind of crap is that? Have you ever heard of an industry where somebody does the job and doesn't get paid? Yes, I have. It's the restaurant industry. Anyway, these little fiefdoms, these little cash cows, not just for the owners of the restaurants, but the real estate owners. Most of the time, restaurant owners don't even own their buildings. When they say there's no money for wages, there sure as hell is money for rent. When they say there's no money to provide health insurance for the workers, there sure as hell is money for promotions, upper management of these big companies. You know, these restaurants are preserving a vestige of slavery with tipping. And it's abhorrent. It's arcane. That's the word of the day. It's arcane. Anyway, I'm going to hand off the mic. My name is Adam. I'm really proud to be in solidarity with current restaurant workers. And I guess we're having a little sitting at the dining room right here in the middle of the street. Huh? This is wonderful direct action in Ukraine. Here you go, Ryan.
Thank you, Adam. So you might want to know where tipping comes from, historically in America. Because we're the only country that does it the way that we do it. We're the only country where the average tip is so high because it covers so much of everyone's wages. So why is that? When did it start? Well, after the Civil War, there was a compromise made. You used to pay your black servers and your black bartenders nothing, $0, if you let them keep their tips. And so that's where tipping started in America. It was a way to pay newly freed black people nothing in exchange for being able to take home whatever tips they got, which weren't much. The next time the tip minimum wage went up was in 1978. And it went up to $2.13. It has been nationally at $2.13 since 1978. It has not gone up once in over 40 years. And yet all of these restaurants like Pride's right here, they'll say time and time again, oh, we can't possibly afford to pay people the full minimum wage. And then you have some of their employees, some of the tip workers, who they convince that tips will go away if they're forced to pay $15 an hour. They're in the tip. Well, let me tell you, in California right now, the tip minimum wage is $15 an hour. And you cannot tell me that people in LA and San Francisco don't tip their servers. They do. And so what I'm basically telling you is that they're lies. Don't listen to the restaurant owners who say they can't find work. They can fill all of their open spots tomorrow if they paid their workers a fair $15 an hour minimum wage with tips on the top. And so you hear them say over and over again, oh, we have a labor shortage in America. Unemployment benefits are just too high. That's another lie. We have plenty of people who want to work. A lot of people serve as their career. It is their passion to serve people, to wait tables, to provide people with that joy of putting them in meal, to watching them through their meal. The problem isn't that we don't have a labor shortage. We have a wage shortage in American restaurants. It's become too common. It's become so common that there's even a program for the few restaurants in America who are willing to pay their workers more than the sub-minimum tipped wage. Those are called High Roads restaurants. We've got some in D.C. We've got Ben's Chili Bowl, High Roads restaurant. Best Boys and Pellets, High Roads restaurant. And that's pretty much it in D.C. So even with this program, there's so few who are willing to do it. And so if they want to pay a full and fair minimum wage, we have a program where they can make it happen. And they still choose not to. And so for that reason, we have no choice but to mandate federally that all restaurants pay their workers the full value of their labor, which is at least $15 an hour. You know, we forget McDonald's workers. How much do you think they sell in an hour at the cash register? Hundreds of dollars? Probably at least $500 in food every hour goes through a McDonald's cash register. Every hour. And you're telling me that all the employee gets for that, for creating all that value for McDonald's, for the franchise owner, they only get at most $15? That's theft. I'm sorry. These restaurant owners, these employers are stealing the value produced from the labor of their staff and pocketing it for themselves. They're not looking to make sure that they give everybody a cut of the pie. They're looking to give their workers the very bare minimum and take the rest on for themselves. And so if we can't change that by convincing them that people deserve more in wages, then we're going to have to make them pay more in wages. Isn't that right, Anaya? She prefers the bullhorn.
But I definitely wanted to, of course, back up all that's been said, but also to individuals that are hearing us and listening to us, if you get paid less than $15 an hour, this is literally the fight for you. Even if you get paid more than $15 an hour, we need all hands on deck for this to be passed on a federal level. So don't be content. Don't think, oh, okay, $5 an hour is cool, $10 an hour is cool, I used to have a job. Yes, you do have a job, and that's great, but you deserve more. You deserve more. We are fighting for $50 plus tips on top. We are not just fighting for that. We are fighting to make sure that people are not being discriminated on, getting sexually harassed in the workspace. This is a place of work. This is a place in which you are trying to get paid, get money, make sure you have a steady income. But you're being worried about, people coming up to you and deciding how much tips you get based off of how your face looks. Females getting asked to pull their mask down so that the person can determine how much tips they get based off of if they look good or not on a scale of 1 to 10. That's not fair. That's not humane. That should not be legal in any type of place, let alone a workplace. Literally having to depend on what you look like, and that determines how much tips you get. Or depends on what skin color you are, how much tips you get. And if you do get those tips on the table, or get those tips written on your receipt, that does not guarantee that the worker gets the tips. Because employers take tips from their employees. They do not see the tips that are given to them on a regular basis. So what does that mean? What does that mean like? That means we have to fight for $15 minimum. We should not be dependent on tips to make up that. Saying, oh, it's okay, I can pay $5 an hour, but that'll make it, I will make up for it in the hour based off of tips. That's not a guarantee. Statistics have proven that. It's not a guarantee. So $15 plus this person, and we're just getting started. This is just the beginning. They have not seen anything yet. They damn sure haven't seen me yet. Because now that I know what's going on, I'm fairly new to this fight. I've been in this fight, what, 5, 6 months? I came from North Carolina, where my minimum wage was $7.25, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm a high school student. That's fine. But I have counterparts who are 30, 40 years old making the same amount as me. But they have responsibilities. I'm a high schooler, my money might be going on shopping, saving up for books. But my counterparts that are 30, 40, 50 years old, making $7.25 an hour, they have to literally pay for their rent, pay for their kids to be fed, pay for the clothes on their back. They have to pay to live. They have to survive. The wage the sub-minimum wage is $2.13. It's not livable. That is not a way to live. People cannot expect for individuals to get $2.13 an hour, no tips on top, and then being able to survive, y'all. If you hear me and you think that it is okay to just ignore, then you are against it by default. But if you hear me and you understand what I'm saying, and you agree that people nationwide deserve $15 plus tips on top, then you need to join the fight. Because not everybody's out here to fight that deserves to. Literally. Like I said earlier, it is a privilege to protest. We're protesting for the people in Clyde. We are protesting for the people in Old Ebbitt's Grill who are getting paid $5 an hour when they have an annual income of $32 million. That doesn't make any sense.
That's just one of their restaurants.
One! That is just one. This is a fight that needs to have the momentum and the passion and the motivation from everybody. This is a national fight. This is a national fight. No matter if you're getting paid under $15 or over $15, there's place for you in this movement. We are fighting for one fair wage. It shouldn't be deciphering depending on what state you live in. North Carolina, $7.25, DC, $5, so it shouldn't be $15 flat. You don't have to worry about coming up with the difference on tips, because we know that's not a guarantee. So we have to fight on a federal level for this. And the time is now. There's no more putting it off, because obviously if they haven't changed it in 40 years, and now it's just going to be changed to $5.05, it will not change on the own leisure of the government. We have to push it. We are the people that they serve. They literally have to listen to us. We are the people. So if we don't fight for this, if we're not out here shutting down highways, shutting down roads, protesting outside of Old Ebbitt's Grill, protesting outside of Clyde, no change will happen. So it is our responsibility, it is our duty as people in America to fight for this. Wage justice is racial justice. There is racial discrimination going on in the workplace right now, currently, statistically. Black and brown people and women specifically are being tipped less than their white counterparts. Like, it's not like we're saying this and just saying this just because. This is proven with numbers. This is proven with literally research going behind it. So I'm going to hand to Ryan, who can kind of explain the layout of what we're doing and why we're doing it the way we're doing it, and just to give you guys some foundation and background.
So, and I kind of explained it. That's why we chose Old Ebbitt and Clyde's to be the start and end points of our march. As I said earlier, I was a waiter at the Hamilton, another one of Clyde's restaurants. In fact, Old Ebbitt's 5th busiest restaurant in America, the 14th busiest, the Hamilton, right next door. And last summer, after we all got laid off unceremoniously due to COVID, we were actually doing pretty good on unemployment. I had to spend most of my days getting unemployment for the bussers and the food runners. Most of them spoke Spanish, didn't speak English. Most of them were on visas, green cards, work permits. They didn't think that unemployment applied to them. Well, it does. So the Hamilton didn't care. Clyde didn't care. That was the bussers and the food runners' problems. But I made it my problem. I fought, I helped them apply, I got them the unemployment they deserved. And back then we were getting $600 extra a week from the government. And at the end of July, when restaurants started opening up again, I get a call from the Hamilton telling me, hey, we want you to come back to work 1 day a week. And I said, no. I said, I'm getting unemployment right now. Why would I go back? And they said, well, if you don't come back, we're going to tell the unemployment office that we offered you a job and you refused, and you're going to lose all your unemployment if you don't come back 1 day a week to work for this company. Yeah. And I called them on their bullshit. I said, okay, great, thanks. Won't be coming back. And I got to keep my unemployment because I knew that nothing would happen. But guess what? Most other employees there hadn't been on unemployment before. They didn't know the ropes. They didn't know that that wouldn't happen. And they got the same threats that I got. And they all went back to work 1 day a week, waiting on 2 to 3 tables, making no money, and now they were ineligible to get unemployment, and they were stuck in that situation. There was nothing else they could do. That's unfair. That's predatory employer practices. And for this restaurant group of all restaurant groups, the highest grossing in DC, one of the highest grossing in America, the fact that they refuse to pay their workers just the bare minimum, $15 an hour. Let's talk about all the restaurants that make you fold napkins, do side work, polish silverware, and they don't make you clock out and clock back in with the full minimum wage. No, they make you do that for the tip minimum wage. You don't get tipped for folding napkins. You don't get tipped for polishing glassware. You know how long that takes at most places? 1 to 2 hours, depending on how busy it is. So when people tell you, oh, well, they have to make up the difference if you don't make $15 an hour, let me tell you, that happened to me once, and I got pulled into the manager's office, and he had steam coming out of his ears. How dare I underreport my tips, as he put it, because now they need to shell out a couple more bucks per hour for my wages that week. And that to him was unacceptable. So don't think this is all easy, that things just happen the way they should, that everyone gets the pay that they want. You know, of all theft in America, you combine car theft, burglary, robbery, all that theft combined isn't even half of the wage theft in America. Wage theft in America is 70% of all theft. That's employers stealing from their employees. You know how hard that is to catch as a worker? You gotta save all your clock in and clock out receipts. You gotta get your paycheck, which isn't an actual check, just a receipt telling you all this went to taxes, you're not getting shit. You gotta save those all up, you gotta do the math, you gotta figure it out. Oh, did they clock me out early? Did they adjust my clock in, clock out time? And guess what? Let's say you think you might be right, and you bring it up to your employer, they're just gonna fire you. You have no protections. You have no health care. You have no child care. And they know it, and they don't care. Because if they cared, they'd give it to you. In-N-Out Burger pays $17 an hour. You're telling me that Clyde's can't pay $15 for their tipped employees and give them their tips on top? You actually believe the restaurant owners when they tell you that? Living in the houses that they do? doing the things that they do, taking the vacations that they can. You believe that it's the employees who just don't know how to manage their money right, who should just get a better job. Well, a lot of them did last year. A lot of them have left the restaurant industry, and now what do you hear from restaurant owners? Oh, we can't find any workers to work for poverty wages. Oh, nobody wants to work anymore. They're just greedy. They're just sitting on their asses on unemployment, and they love that. That's not the case. Most of them have left the industry because they know it's not worth their time. It's not worth being on your feet for 8 straight hours, no break. Again, you're supposed to get a break. I've never worked at a restaurant where they've let us have a break. You gotta be on your feet all day. You're gonna be dealing with people all day. This isn't a desk job. This isn't a check your Facebook during work hours job. In fact, most places I've worked, if you have your cell phone on you, they'll fire you on the spot. They treat their employees like children. They manage and micromanage their every move, and they don't give them what they deserve, which is $15 an hour with tips on top. And like I said earlier, tip work began at the end of the Civil War as a way to pay black servers nothing, $0, and say, oh, well, if they tip you, you can keep that. That's where tipping started in America. This is a legacy of slavery that we live with to this day, and restaurants think it's okay. Restaurants don't care. So we're going to have to make them change. We got the Raise the Wage Act in Congress right now. Raise the national, federal, sub-minimum wage. Again, only in America will we have something called a sub-minimum wage. We're going to eliminate that. And that's not just restaurant workers. That includes Uber drivers. That includes food delivery workers.
That includes valets.
That includes valets. That includes incarcerated workers who make dimes an hour at most. And they don't even have a choice if they want to work or not. That's forced labor, another legacy of slavery. So that's all tied into what we're fighting about today. And that's why we're fighting at Clyde, one of the biggest and most profitable restaurant groups in the country, who says they can't pay their workers what they deserve. So with that, I invite you all to call your congressman. Tell them to support the Wage the Raise Act. Look up the numbers for the Democratic senators who voted against raising the sub-minimum wage to $15 an hour back in March. That's the 2 in New Hampshire, that's Kirsten Sinema in Arizona, that's Joe Manchin in West Virginia, and the 2 senators in Delaware. Call them up. Tell them if they want to get Democrats' votes next year, they better support this summer. Because when the unemployment benefits end come September, extended unemployment benefits, we better have a full and fair wage for people to go back to work and earn. Because if we don't, you're going to see a lot less restaurant workers out at your restaurants. You're going to be waiting a lot longer for your meals at Clyde's Chinatown and everywhere else in the city. It's going to stay that way. Because like I said, in California right now, it's at $15 an hour for tipped employees across the state. And you can't tell me, and in Oregon, you can't tell me that they don't tip their servers in LA and San Francisco. You can't tell me they don't tip their servers in Sonoma Valley. You can't tell me they don't tip their servers in Oakland. You can't tell me they don't tip their servers in San Diego. We're going to be doing a lot more of these events over the summer. I encourage you to link up with myself, with Anaya, talking with some press right now, with Chris, with Dia. Let us get to know you, and let's get you all involved, and let's organize your workplaces.
Woo! Chinatown! Chinatown! When I say one thing, y'all say wage. One thing.
Wage.
One thing.
Wage.
When I say 15, y'all say an hour. 15.
An hour.
15.
An hour.
One thing.
Wage.
One thing.
Wage.
15.
An hour.
15.
An hour.
one big wave.